Hi, I'm back again for another session of my impromptu speaking. Um, Today I'm going to be talking about what topic? I'm going to think. Let's talk about economic systems and Africa. Why why is Africa poor? Is it because of the economic system we practice or something else? So that's what we're going to talk about. But first, I'm going to put out a caveat, and the caveat is this speech is not based on any research, and I'm not guaranteeing the factuality of um, what I'm going to say. So I'm just speaking of heart. Like I said, this is an impromptu speaking session, so I'm going to be just tapping into my knowledge information I've had for years, so it might be a little bit rusty. So let's get into it. So I will start by mentioning a couple of economic system that we have. We have communism, which is the extreme economic system of um, the explanation of communism is an economic system where the government tries to distribute wealth, according to needs, where every citizen is required to work in, as a group for the betterment of the state, and then the state tries to distribute wealth according to needs. Socialism is a less extreme economic system, but similar to communism. So socialism is, kind of similar to communism, but not to the extreme of the state taking full responsibility of redistributing wealth according to needs and all that. Then we have capitalism, that's free market, where the forces of demand and supply, moves the market and all. So there is private ownership of means of production. Government doesn't have monopoly of production, or doesn't. Our government are not in charge of distributing wealth. So that's capitalism. So there are the other numerous other ones. I'm going to mention a few that we'll be talking about. Then, of course, there is feudalism. Feudalism is to be a system where there are the elites. I forgot what they call them. They own all the lands, and then the serfs, which are the lower class, who rent these lands and then work the fields and pay homage or returns to the elite who own the land. So this is just this system used to be in practice in the olden times, where we just have two classes: those that work the farms and those that own the lands. So what does Africa practice? Africa claim to practice capitalism in theory, but what we see mostly is socialism. Even though no country practices any form of economic system purely, it's always a mixed economic system. For instance, China, they say China is a socialist system, but it's actually not a socialist system. They practice a mix of capitalism and mix of and socialism. So does but then so does Russia. But those used to be former socialist economies back in the days, in the 70s, 80s, early 90s, and we know how bad the economy were in those communist systems like USSR, former USSR, now balkanized into numerous countries, including Russia. Then China used to be a communist, and millions of people died in China because of practicing pure communism under Mao Zedong. Um, so then Africa, back to Africa. Well, we claim to practice communism. Sorry, capitalism. Of course, I'll explain what capitalism means. the a free market where supply and demand moves the market, where private ownership um, is encouraged, and in a real capitalist economy, the government should do less. There should be smaller government, just like in the U.S. If you follow the U.S. Politics, so you understand that there's always a clamor for lesser government involvement in private business or private life. So if you are going to point out a system where capitalism is closely practiced at its purest form, it would be America, and that's why um, it is the land of the free and is the land of the most opportunity where anybody can be anything because it's a free market, almost purely a free market. And then in contrast to Africa, we Africans are most of the problem. We do not understand these systems. We try to get free stuff from the government. We do not understand that the more government gets involved in the politics of economy, the more socialist we become, and the more private enterprises are discouraged. This for instance, if I'm producing corn for example, and government is producing corn and subsidizing the corn because it's a government, you know, business. They are putting me out of business. So you see, it discourages private capital, private entrepreneurs, and all that. So what should we do to change Africa or improve African economies? I think we should tilt towards real capitalism, where private enterprise is encouraged, where government tries to remove their hands from the means of production and production itself. Government does not have any business in setting up factories, companies. Over the years, we've understood, we have seen, we have learned that government is a bad manager of resources. And then the change of government over time, or at periodic change of government, does not encourage continuity because different governments comes in with different ideologies and different visions. So that is why it is important to have private. They encourage capitalism, which is private enterprise and all, where individuals set up businesses and compete. And you might ask, you might say that Nigerians or Africans are predatory in their pricing and all. No, they're not predatory in their pricing. The problem is, you know, there are lots of problems that causes prices, just like the airlines we are seeing now. We have just a handful of airlines, and they have a handful of aircrafts, and now demand is high this festive period. This is just purely economy. That's why your flights from wherever to the east is close to 400,000. It's not because they are deliberately trying to be predatory in their pricing. It is because the, we have just a few number of airlines, a few number of aircraft, and high demand. This is just purely economics. There are a lot of demand at this period of time, and then there is no much supply of the product, which is the aircraft, the airlines, and all that. So that is why if you're traveling to the north, the cost or the fee will relatively still be very low compared to what if you're traveling to the east. So this just shows that it's not about connivance of the owners of the airlines to rip people off and all that. It's not that. This is just purely economic. So what should we do to drive prices down? It is to encourage more investment in these sectors. More airlines should come on board. More aircraft should be bought by airlines to drop the price. This is just an example I'm giving. Another problem with the economy of Africa is we have this is arguably most the biggest problem of every African state is over taxation by the government. We have people who have never run any business in their lives running African governments, so they do not understand business, and they are all rent seeking. They are all rent seekers. They have never created value. Most of them have never created value in the private life and the private sector. So they get into government, and what they think is how do we extract the most from citizens? Let's tax them more. Let's tax businesses more. Let's tax that Dangote. He has 20 million to build a refinery. He has money. Let's tax him. Not understanding that over taxation drives away investors, especially in our system where purchasing power is low. So if you overtax businesses and even the population, do not give them that. The market is not even big enough for them to make enough money or to break even on and make enough profit. You are taxing them to death. I don't know if you understand. So overtaxation is the major problem with killing African economies, and overregulation as well. There's a lot of regulation to set up businesses. It is very difficult to set up business. To register your business, it is a Herculean task. Just for example, you can stay here, you can be in Nigeria and register a company in America, open a bank account in Delaware and some other states in America. Just imagine that. But we in Nigeria just try to open a business. You see all the hurdle you have to go, jump through. So these bottlenecks discourages private enterprise and makes Africa poorer. So what should we do? First is to, of course, get wiser and elect people who have run businesses in their lives before, not people who have never run any business. Secondly, is we shouldn't be clamoring for government to subsidize everything. Government should bring down the price of the DSTV. They should bring down the price of data. They should bring down the price of flights. They should bring down the price of rice. We are calling government into everything. We don't know what we are doing. We are encouraging socialism and communism, and we are killing the economy. What we should clamor for is, government, remove your hand from this, remove your hand from that. Do not overtax businesses. Remove all the bottlenecks for businesses. Make it easy for people to set up businesses. Encourage businesses to come into, give tax reliefs, give tax breaks to businesses, especially large conglomerates, to come into Nigeria. Do not over seek rent. Do not seek rent. Actually leave the economy to run itself. Leave the people to build the system. And another thing we do not understand, especially when we go to school, we are always expecting to get a government job or government work after school. And then when we graduate and we don't get the government work, we'll be like, school is scam. There's no work. Government is not meant to create jobs like that. The way government creates jobs is not by employing people. It is by creating an enabling environment for private businesses to create business. That's how government create jobs, by creating an enabling environment, not by, okay, we have police, we have civil defense. The next thing is they'll create another paramilitary organization, Peace Corps. They'll call it a different name. You see, that's duplicate of agencies, and that's the only way they know how to create jobs. And these jobs are not even productive jobs. So the kind of jobs we should be looking to create are, areas of production in agriculture, in manufacturing, where people can actually work and produce something to export or to use within Nigeria. This is how we get rich. So government, that's why when this Pengassan was fighting against Dangote, I was on Dangote's side, because they were discouraging other investors. If they had killed this refinery, the biggest investment in Nigeria by a Nigerian, what message are you sending to foreign investors? Why are politicians traveling everywhere to invite investors? So we are doing ourselves, actually, and it's because of lack of knowledge, lack of information. So I think for one, the public should read more. The school should actually as well do more by enlightening the pupils, the students, to understand the different types of economic systems. So do we want to practice capitalism, or do we want to practice socialism? Of course, the answer is obvious. America is the greatest economy in the world, and this is pure capitalism. And China used to have famine and hunger when they were purely communist state until they started practicing capitalism, and we can see where China is now. Most of you